Work to raise the Pindari Dam wall by 40 metres started in 1987 under the Labor government of the day and continued under the Coalition, work finishing $6 million below budget. Today, Premier Bob Carr arrived to open the extensions, accompanied by his Land and Water Conservation Minister Kim Yaden. Amidst all the fanfare, a ribbon-cutting ceremony preceded the unveiling of a plaque commemorating what is an impressive feat of engineering. With 67% of the state drought affected, it's projects like this the government hopes will help drought-proof the state. The dam's storage capacity has now been boosted by a staggering amount, from 37,000 megalitres when work first started 8 years ago to nearly 8 times that capacity. It can now hold 312,000 megalitres. In Inverell today, Mr Carr defended his government's water policies, citing the dam as an example of the good side, irrigators seeing recent water charges as the bad side.
We've reformed water management, we've increased the price of country water, as we've got to do, recognising that it's a scarce resource. Increase our capacity to drought-proof.
The Waratahs completed their grand final preparation with an intensive training run last night. They haven't played in a premiership decider since 1983 and last won a title 4 years earlier. And despite Singleton's impressive record, the Waratahs believe they have nothing to lose.
No one thinks we can win it, so I can't think of any better way to go into it. This is the fourth time we've played them this year, and they've beaten us on 3 occasions, so, you know, we'll go in as underdogs. They're red-hot favourites, and we'll see what happens on the day. Yeah.
And on the same day last year, Singleton was upstaged by Maitland in the grand final. The Bulls are out to become the first side since University in 1984 to win the premiership undefeated, with Wallaby halfback Steve Merrick likely to play a leading role.
You can't play your whole game towards one person. We've got to be aware of just how exciting and how much he can change the game.
Kick-off tomorrow at number 2 Sports Ground is at the unusual time of 4:30. The Knights began disastrously with captain Steve Crowe stretchered off the field with what appeared to be a serious knee injury. Minutes later, they lost another experienced forward in Tim Madison, who was felled by Scott Freestone. Unperturbed, the Knights rallied with 2 tries from set pieces. The first by winger John Carlaw, who beat his man and then set sail for the line. The second gave the Knights a 12-0 half-time lead and was to the other flanker in Darren Albert, who was the recipient of a magnificent pass from Craig Camorley. Brendan McKell secured the match for Newcastle 15 minutes into the second half, swooping on a coast mistake and racing the length of the field. Carlaw finished the game in style for Newcastle. His brilliant solo effort came from nothing and capped a memorable performance. That effort certainly inspired first grade, who were farewelled by hundreds of fans at Marathon Stadium this afternoon. They'll be hoping to join reserves on grand final day next week, but must overcome Manly tomorrow to qualify. Stony Bay beating slipper winner Flying Spur with Joie de Nice third. Down south to Caulfield, where the Fian Stakes over 1,600 metres provided an exciting finish. The replay revealing that the enforcer Mick Dittman, 2 out from the rails, lost the whip on Charsky, which finished second behind 25-1 outsider Boart, while Count Chivas was third. In a tense first quarter, Dean Uthoff was ejected from the match for allegedly shouldering the referee. But the Kings rallied for a 9-point lead at the break, the retiring Bob Turner on line for the perfect farewell. But the experienced hands came to the fore for the Falcons, Michael Johnson and the captain cool in the crisis. Hayes was also outstanding in defence, the Falcons drawing level, sending the game into overtime. They maintained their outstanding extra period record this season, prevailing by 3 points. So in the quarterfinals, Newcastle confronts a 36ers side which has won 9 straight on Wednesday, with the return matches in Adelaide. In other playoff games, the 3 Melbourne-based sides play Perth, Brisbane and Illawarra. Meantime, the NBL has announced it will review the timing of its season, exploring the option of moving the competition into the summer.
It was during last week's informal get-together that the idea of sharing the Deputy Lord Mayor's job was raised. During the next 4 years, Council wants to adopt a more consensus style of governing. It's thought 8 6-month terms for the Deputy's position will enable all those who want the job to have their turn. After 16 years on Council, ALP Councillor John Manning is a popular full-time contender, but he supports the idea of serving a shorter term.
Well, it's unorthodox and unusual, but times change, and if you've got to have a changing circumstance, well, you've got to change the method.
Tomorrow night's decision will be an early indication of future political alliances. Another councillor seeking the job is defeated Lord Mayoral candidate Councillor Morgan Jones.
We're making a statement. This is a bipartisan local government we don't have party politics. We want to get on with the job. I think that's, me being Deputy Lord Mayor would say that.
Port Stephens will also be voting in its new leaders tomorrow night. With 5 fresh faces in the lineup, the Mayor and Deputy Mayor positions are tipped to go to the more experienced councillors. And at Lake Macquarie, the city's new Deputy Mayor will be elected when the council sits for the first time next Monday. Given council's solid independent contingent, it's likely an independent Deputy Mayor will gain the most support. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
The valley has turned a healthy shade of green over the past few weeks, with the weekend showers timed perfectly.
Up to a couple of weeks ago was absolutely desperate. The rain we got a couple of weeks ago has just put a bit of a shoot on, and this follow-up rain is what we need. And keeping our fingers crossed, we'll get a bit more follow-up rain in another week or so, and we should get a spring out of this year.
Up to 50 millimetres fell throughout the Hunter, helping to fill dams and get rivers flowing again. But more rain is needed to add bulk to the region's fodder crops, or the green drought will continue.
It looks green, it looks good, but it's not enough bulk there yet.
But with cattle prices expected to remain low, there is still no cash flow for most farmers. The Upper Hunter is still the worst hit, with farmers in the eastern portion of the Marywar area still trying to be added to the federal government's exceptional circumstances list.
It's very desperate there, and those blokes have, certainly don't have a lot of financial resources left following the droughts from last year and also earlier this year, so the cash flow is very critical, and the prices they're getting for the cattle in the marketplace are not very good either.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News. The Knights strolled into their third straight reserve grade grand final with the help of the elusive sidestep of 20-year-old John Carlaw. His semi-final double against the Gold Coast provided the perfect introduction to semi-final football, and he's keen to repeat the effort in the grand final.
Another 2 would be great, but I don't care if we win 1-0, it'll be good.
Carlaw was included in the team announced today that hopes to erase the memory of consecutive grand final losses. Brett Grogan and Michael Eager have dropped back to reserves to team up in the centres. Steve Crowe is out with a broken leg. Tim Maddison has been named as the new captain, provided he overcomes a neck injury. But most concern centres around Craig Camorley, whose injured ankle threatens to break the successful scrum-based combination he shares with his brother.
That's my biggest problem at this stage is Craig Camorley. We've only won 1 game this year. When one of them's been on the park, both of them been on the park every time we've won. So, yeah, they're very important, the 2 brothers.
First graders Robbie Ross and Bill Peden will start from the bench. And the season's been extended for some other Knights top graders, with 6 players named in the World Cup train-on squad. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The 36ers arrived in Newcastle late this afternoon, expecting the quarter-finals games against the Falcons to be nail-biters.
It could go down to 3 in overtimes in each game. That's how good the teams are. So whatever it is, certainly we're looking forward to it, and I know that Newcastle is too.
Coach Dunlap says American import Jojo English will play despite question marks over an injured ankle. One Falcon probably hoping Jojo is fit is Grant Kruger. The forward is well known for taking on the opposition, whatever their size or stature. You obviously don't mind mixing it though?
Oh no, well that's part of the game, so someone's got to do it.
The Falcons have lost only one game in the last 6, and that was to the 36ers. But the team isn't too worried, expecting their good form this season should pull them through.
We're competitive. It's down to 8 teams now. Any one of the 8 can win the championship, and we say, why not us?
The Falcons have a 17-win, 9-game loss this season, their best effort since 1985. The team is hoping the fans will turn out tomorrow night at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre. More than 1,500 seats are still available. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Shark meshing is the price paid for the peace of mind of swimmers and surfers along popular Hunter and Central Coast beaches. This 3-metre white pointer shark was full of fight when it was hauled on board the shark meshing boat off Stockton Beach just after 7.
He was on the inside of the net, or the western end of the net, and he was only about 120 metres away from Stockton Beach, right in front of the clubhouse.
The net was chopped clean in two and brought him on board, and he was snapping around and trying to bite at us. As you moved around the deck, the eyes were following him, and it's quite eerie as it follows you around the deck.
Estimated to be about 6 years old, white pointers such as this one could be expected to live from 40 to 80 years. Its jaws and razor-sharp teeth can exert a bite pressure of 3.5 tonnes, and the shark is capable of speeds of around 60 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, they're ferocious, mate. They really are, the whites. They're a proverbial perfect killing machine, and they certainly show no remorse at whatever they have a go at.
It's a proven man-eater. It's probably the deadliest of all the sharks.
Debate surrounds the 50-year-old practice of meshing sharks and the killing of other marine life which blunders into the nets.
The pinprick in the ocean, we're only doing a tiny little bit of water, and there's a lot more water and a lot more fish and a lot more sharks out there. There hasn't been a recorded shark attack on a mesh beach since meshing's been going for, how many years it is.
Most people wouldn't notice, but fishermen were horrified to find one of their favourite heavy weather haunts has been completely changed.
The rocks on this fringing edge have been moved out to form this new barricade, and in so doing all the invertebrates that lived in amongst the rocks, the tube worms and of course the other nudibranchs that lived around this area, and crabs have all been destroyed in forming this new formation.
Known as the Soldiers' Baths, a collection of rocks at Nobby's Beach offered fish a place of shelter in big seas. Some fishermen say they've seen an excavator working in the area, but so far no one is owning up.
I think what they're trying to do is form a new current movement along here to scare out the bottom end of the beach. And you can see these new couple of breakwalls that have been formed here in the water, and that should create a current moving along the beach to scare it out.
Under strict new management rules, fisheries could fine the offender and order the restoration of the rock shelf.
The Falcons came out firing with their aggressive start, leaving the Adelaide players in shell shock. Smith and Kruger dominated under the basket in a game that was not for the faint of heart. Tony Jensen was always in the thick of it, chasing everything to the death.
Yeah, it's playoff basketball, and people are going to put their body on the lines, and you're going to get hit a lot because people just want to win and they'll do anything to win.
Jensen was the game's best, grabbing 35 points. The Falcons led at every quarter. Nearly everything they touched turned to gold. Butch Hayes was inspirational. Matty Alexander played a blinder from the bench. The Falcons proved their doubters wrong with the 101-93 victory, but there is more work to come. They play Adelaide again tomorrow night in Adelaide. A win would put them through to the semis. A loss would mean another game in the best-of-3 clashes in Adelaide on Sunday. Tony Jensen is feeling confident.
We have to keep composed, play the way we know we can play and play to our strengths, and I think we'll get the win and we'll be home on our lounges Sunday watching the footy.
4 employees and 4 customers were in the Newcastle Permanent Building Society branch when it was robbed on Saturday, half an hour before closing time. Today, detectives released photos of one of the men involved. He was wearing a balaclava to hide his face, but the officers are hoping someone might recognise his clothing or his distinctive nose. While this offender was threatening customers with a shortened .22 calibre rifle at the front of the Building Society, another man was raiding cash drawers and a safe. He was also armed and is described as being of Mediterranean in appearance. And then there's this man, who police believe may be able to help them with their inquiries. The offenders escaped with a large amount of money. Because of the ordeal, which police say was extremely harrowing, the 8 people involved are all receiving counselling.
The men were armed with shortened shotguns, we believe. Those shotguns were placed at a number of people's heads and threats were made.
Jodie McKay, NBN News. This is Trevor Bates in 1993 wearing a wig, scarf and a hat. In similar disguises, he robbed 4 Newcastle banks and building societies. Yesterday, he was brought back to Newcastle. The 32-year-old was escorted from the plane by detectives who applied for his transfer from a South Australian prison where he was serving a 17-year sentence for 2 armed robberies in Adelaide. In Newcastle court today, he was officially charged with 4 counts of armed robbery and stealing 4 cars from the Newcastle area. His first armed attack was in January 1993 at the New Lambton branch of the Greater Building Society. 4 months later, the National Australia Bank at the Junction was robbed. In August, he hit the National Australia Bank in the city, and his final robbery that year was at the New Lambton branch of the Newcastle Permanent Building Society. He stole more than $16,000. On each occasion, he used a stolen Commodore as a getaway car. They were found dumped nearby with the engine still running. Bates pleaded guilty to all 8 charges. He'll be back before Newcastle Court next week, where a date is expected to be set for sentencing. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
The inquiry centres on the Cooks Hill fire station in central Newcastle.
I can confirm that there is an inquiry being carried out or conducted into alleged drinking on duty in the Newcastle Fire District.
Although the fire service won't say more, it has been discovered that last month information was passed on to the Fire Commissioner in Sydney. An investigation involving private detectives followed, which in turn led to action being taken. It's understood senior fire officers raided the fire station one evening and found alcohol on the premises. It's believed an inspector was escorted from the station and suspended. Another junior officer was also suspended and an inquiry set up. The Minister for Emergency Services, Bob Debus, is aware of the allegations and he says he views them most seriously. He says it's vital the people of Newcastle have full confidence in their fire officers.
Well, under no circumstances does the brigade condone drinking at all by on-duty members in any fire station.
It's believed the inquiry is also investigating other serious matters at Cooks Hill and records are believed to have been confiscated. Peter Ryan, NBN News. It could be a scene on the snowfields of Perisher or Thredbo. But this definitely isn't the Snowy Mountains. In fact, it's about an 8-hour trip north. North, yes, north. This is Newcastle's only ski slope. Most of these youngsters have never seen snow and they were having the time of their lives. This magical trick on Mother Nature was created by liquid nitrogen mixed with water and oxygen pumped into a special tent. It's part of the Great ANZUS Science Show at the Newcastle Regional Museum to give everyone an interesting look at science. The science show runs for 6 days, but the snow, well, it may be Australia's shortest season. It's expected to be gone by tomorrow.